As you can see, I'm not in my normal location. I'm in a hotel room. And yeah, using this device here, a smartphone. Not so happy with that. But anyway, we are going to talk about some quite serious matters this morning. As you can see from the title, I'm just going to give it a few seconds so that people can join the chat and all of that. I will get my glasses. Where are they? I think I have them here in my little backpack here. Hi there, KP Hidden, Thunder Norse. Hi there. Heart Songs says hey in Norwegian. Wonderful. So, yeah, that's better. Yeah. What a crazy last few days. The last few days have been just crazy. Just crazy. And I'm like, what's next? What's next? But anyway, here's my watch. An old Vostok watch. You have to wind it. I normally don't use a watch, but when I'm traveling, I do. Oops, no, yeah, I'll sort that out later. Let's see. Yeah, now, okay. Yes, let's get to it. I will start with the part of the title that may not have shown up because it was a long title. There is an issue on YouTube now where and this has been, YouTube is not being, okay, YouTube is not being upfront and honest about this, but quite a few YouTubers have been looking into the analytics, and their conclusion is that YouTube is now not counting views that where the user is using ad blockers. So if you use ad blockers, which you really shouldn't, and I'll explain why, that will not count as a view. And this is probably the reason why, at least one of the reasons, one of the main reasons why views have been down lately on all across the board. Big channels, small channels, views have been down, but more so on channels that have an adult audience, not so much the silly channels that kids watch. And I won't get too much into that, but what happens is that when you use ad blockers, YouTube obviously doesn't make any money, and YouTube is a business, and I don't make any money if you use ad blockers either. Not only that, but I will go a little bit further here and just tell you straight out that, if my channel is not making money, or is making less and less and less money because people are using ad blockers, YouTube will very quickly hide all of my videos. That will kill my channel. So YouTube is not going to be harmed by people using ad blockers. The creators will. The creators will be directly affected now if you use ad blockers. Now, I have a total of 4 channels on YouTube, and this, by the way, is my, this is where I do my live streams and so on. But it's like, if you do care, I know this is not a popular message, and I get it. YouTube has become extremely greedy, just throwing ads into the videos. Now, I don't see any ads when I watch YouTube because I have the YouTube premium thing. But again, yes, NeoWolf09, as I just said, yes, this is why creators saw a permanent dip in viewers for desktop. It started at the 10th of August. So again, I've been on YouTube for a few years now, and if I've learned anything, is that there is only one metric concerning your channel that YouTube cares about, and it's very, very simple. Very simple. YouTube cares only about how much money your channel is making them. That is the only metric they care about. So if people are using ad blockers when they are watching your video, that will very negatively affect your channel. So, okay, I will move on now. Hi there, Mr. Sorpos. Hi there. Now, the murder of Charlie Kirk is just horrible. It's just horrible, and it doesn't matter that I was in disagreement with most of what he said. It doesn't matter. I think that when a country, in this case the USA, degenerates as it's been doing lately, then something has to be done to stop that. And also, yes, I get it. If people like Charlie Kirk had gotten their way, there wouldn't have been any free speech anymore after that. And the reason I'm saying that is that people like him, basically what they wanted was a theocracy. But all of that doesn't matter. In this case, what matters is that you had someone in a debate being killed. And that's a horrible thing, obviously. Now, I'm saying this now because this is not so obvious to everyone out there. Now, in the title, I put the name Hasan. So there's a guy, I don't know if he's on YouTube, he's on Twitch. I don't follow him. He's the nephew of Cenk in the Young Turks, if you know about them. They are on YouTube. They are kind of a leftist people just sitting, sharing their opinions there. So Hasan Piker is a leftist too. Again, doesn't matter. What matters is that floating around now on the internet, you can find clips from his, I believe, live streams where he's, how should I put this? And this is the irony. If I said now what he has been saying several times, I would be demonetized just like that. But these people, it's a double standard. We all know this. If you're a leftist, you can say horrible things, violent things, and you won't be demonetized. It will all be fine. But I can't say it. But basically, what he's been doing is been calling for the murder of political opponents, so to speak, politicians that he doesn't like. Now YouTube is moving in here with censorship. Oh yeah, isn't that? I have to manually go in here. Oh yeah, it's they protecting Israel, aren't they? Yes. Isn't that wonderful how YouTube is always protecting Israel? Isn't that wonderful? I'm being ironic now. I'm being ironic. But anyway, Hasan Piker, he's been calling for the killing using a sharp object of people he don't like. He's been very descriptive about that. And also another one who is very big on YouTube is Destiny. Now, I don't follow Destiny. I would be, why would I do that to myself? And now they're saying, oh, it was, it's out of context and so on. But the thing is, these people are not tolerant. They do not support free speech. They would be violent if they got into a position of power. And it's very easy to see what kind of people they are. And it's been very easy to see for a long time. When typically when you have a country and the communists take over or the fascists take over, they're basically two cheeks of the same ass. They start killing people. That's what they do. They always do that. And I believe that Hasan Piker and Destiny, they would support that. Why do I believe that? Because they're saying it. They've been saying it. They're not being ironic. They're not joking even, which it would be disgusting, but they're just saying it. So why are these people, so this is illegal, what they've been doing. It's illegal. Now, I don't know. These are both in the USA, I believe. And I don't know how American law works in that regard, but in Norway, free speech is protected. Like it's not like you will see on these American news channels. Oh, he said this person is not a woman because he or she was born as a man, and you go to prison. No, it's not. That's not real. Honestly, that's not real. So free speech is protected in Norway, and yeah, lost my train of thought there a little bit, but this is not free speech. And if you say that someone should go and kill this person, that's illegal here in Norway. That's illegal, and I believe it should be, because when you have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers and you say someone should go and kill this person, someone might do that, obviously. So why have they not been arrested? Why? They should be. They really should be. Now, I'm going to respond to one thing here that I saw in the chat. The way this works is that I go through these topics first, and then we can just have a conversation. I have lots of time. I'm up early. I'm in a hotel room. It's boring, and all of that. So yeah, the murder of Charlie Kirk has not been framed in media, mainstream media in Norway. No, it's they're just saying it as it is. Now I will say that I'm not so sure about who the killer is and the real motives. I'm not so sure about that, but you know, that's all I will say about that so far. Yeah, YouTube keeps. It looks like YouTube is protecting these people. Actually, isn't that strange? I'm saying that because I have to manually go in and show some of these comments in the chat because YouTube are censoring them. Hasan is always calling for violence. Yeah, that's the impression I have. Yeah. So yeah, Norwegian media has not been framing the murder of Charlie Kirk, as far as I know. As far as I've seen, they've been quite objective about that. What they have been framing is the massive protests in London a few days ago. So now, okay, just okay. I'll stick to the topic. I see lots of comments here, and people usually don't like it when I change topics like this, but I will stick to the topic. Yeah, so it could have been worse, I guess, and I'm sure there are leftist journalists calling it the far-right movement. I haven't seen that myself, and it's not been like, is it CBS or something like that? Is that a news channel? News in its in quote-unquote news channel. And they say, no, I saw they were framing it, oh, it's far right and they're violent and all of that, which seems to be very far from the truth. And also they're saying like BBC said, oh, thousands of people went to the streets to protest. And all of that, because they don't want the truth to come out, right? Was it 1 million in that protest? I don't know. I've seen people trying to calculate the area. They used the area that was filled with people there, and they came to 400, almost 500,000. I don't know, at least several hundred thousands. And that's a movement that people need to understand that when you see that many people out in the streets like that, That's only the tip of the iceberg. So this is a massive movement in the UK now, and things will have to change. Now, the situation in the UK, I know a little bit about that actually, because now I'm not in the UK, I'm Norwegian, but I've been to the UK many times. And there was a few years now when I hadn't been there for a few years, and then I went back, and it had changed dramatically. It was very visible that there's been a massive immigration. Now, why does that matter? Okay, some people will say immigration is good. It's what makes us strong and all of that. That's not true. It's not true at all. What it will do is that and research has shown this, increase in crime, increasing prices of properties like houses, apartments, and a complete breakdown of every system that you need in a country to work. So that seems to be what's been happening and what is happening in the UK now. So understandably, people are protesting because they don't want that to happen in their country. They don't want that to be the future for the children. And calling that a right-wing racist movement is quite disgusting and very disrespectful. Hi there, Anna. Good to see you there. So I've said this before, and I'm a big fan of English culture, Scottish culture, Welsh culture, and so on and so on. It's like I like that culture. I want it to remain. I want it to be alive. I don't want it to change too much. Yes, cultures are always changing, but we can control this to some degree. And I do believe that English culture is better than the cultures that are imported into that country. That's my opinion. Some people might say that African culture is better than English culture. I disagree. I think that English culture, and by the way, that's actually something that can be defined using the heritage, the Anglo-Saxon heritage. Now, I think that is a better culture than many of the cultures that are imported into that country now. So this is, I understand that this is like, some would say that's racist to say. Well, it has nothing to do with race, actually. I've said before many times that I do not agree with Islam. Why the hell would I? As a Norse pagan, why would I agree with Islam? I don't. I do not want Islam or Christianity, by the way, to have too much power in a culture, in a society. Now, if I had to choose between those two, modern Christianity or Islam, of course I would choose Christianity, because among the Abrahamic religions it's very benign. It's benign. It's not completely benign, and it only takes a few years to make it into something very violent and something that would make my life not so good. And by the way, people like Charlie Kirk would be the architects of making that happen. So what can I say? You know, yeah, the protest is one thing, I get it, and in London that was one thing, and raise the colors, another thing. But this movement, I believe, is you can. I actually don't remember what they called protest in London, but it doesn't really matter so much. The thing is, the point is that you have a movement, a grassroots movement in the UK, and it matters. And you know, it's something that probably should have happened a long time ago. And I see that, you know, the politicians in the UK are now, Keir Starmer said something along the line, so we will not give up our flag or something like that. That was his response to the protest, as if they are the ones who are upholding the British identity and decency. Well, big news flash here. That's not the reality at all. So that protest was apparently very peaceful. It could have gone wrong, you know, and I think that's what some of these people in the government wanted. But no, that's not what happened. And it just shows that these are mainly normal people. Now, of course, you will have proper racists within a movement like the one we're seeing in the UK now. You will have that. You will have the hooligans there. But that doesn't mean that they are representative of the movement. So, I'll get to the chat now. We'll see what we can do. Ricardo says, is the problem non-Europeans migrating to Europe, or just their presence in Europe completely? Visitors and all. Well, mainly the problem is non-Europeans. Not all non-Europeans. Norway, being in Norway, it's a little bit, when you are in Norway, you don't really get to see what mass immigration does, because we don't have that here. We had, I don't know the numbers exactly, but it was less than 2,000 asylum seekers last year, I think. That's what I heard in a debate on the TV last night. But I think we had like 100,000 people coming in from the Ukraine. Now, people from the Ukraine, they just integrate into the culture here. It's like, what I've heard is that there's never any problem with people from Ukraine, and it's mainly women and children. And also, as far as I know, it's a good thing in Norway, because more people are needed here because we're not that many people here, and we need more people who can work. So Norway is not representative. But in the countries that have a lot of immigration from outside of Europe, like Sweden, typically the EU countries, Norway is not part of the EU, by the way, and of course the UK in uh, uh, you can clearly see that they form ghettos, they form these subcultures, not subcultures, but these uh, they don't, they're not integrated into the country, into the culture. Now this is, now mass immigration is of course not seen as a bad thing if you're into making money. And why is that? Someone here says Destiny is a hero. I never know if you guys are being ironic or not. Mister, I think that you should specify if you're being ironic. You must be, because there's nothing heroic about sitting talking to a camera. Now, I would know, because I do. When you're on YouTube, you sit there and you talk to a camera. There's nothing heroic about that. You know, if you look at the UK, when you have lots of people coming in, you can keep the wages down and you can increase the property prices. Of course, that's beneficial to the people owning the properties. Okay, now you guys, you do understand that. Let's see. I hope that there are some words you can't use here because of obvious reasons, right? No, there's nothing heroic about sitting somewhere and talking to a camera, unless you're saying something that could actually get you arrested. Now, these people on the left, I'm going back to that a little bit, okay? So these people on the left, they have been feeling very safe, like they can say everything and anything, and they have. But maybe it should not remain like that. So Coca-Cola, yeah, that's, you know, when you're traveling, then, you know, I could drink water, I guess, but yeah. Okay. So Liam says, who in their right mind celebrates murder? Yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing. When you see the comments sometimes, you know, you really have you really start wondering what you realize that there are some crazy people out there. And it's mostly like people just writing things on the internet. And they're being anonymous, usually. I always feel like I do respect people using their full name a lot more than people using just some name, some nickname. But it's like they are celebrating. Yeah, some people are celebrating a murder. and I think that's disgusting. Yeah. Now another thing, yeah, Kit, good point there. Many people who advocate for the death penalty could be seen as celebrating a murder. Yeah, I am against the death penalty. And the reason for that, the main reason is actually that I believe that no state or government should have that power. That's too much power to take a life. That's too much power for a government or a state to have. It's that simple. And when I'm seeing now in the USA that there are some guy there, well, Trump obviously, but you know, a lawyer or something like that, attorney, whatever they call them, he said that he's going to try to implement the death penalty for the alleged shooter. In this case, I find that disgusting, but because it's a primitive response, and this is not a popular opinion. I get it. At least not. Was it a governor? Okay, thank you. We should be better than that. You know, we had this mass murder. We have this mass murderer in Norway, Breivik. He killed a lot of teenagers and many other people too, and he maimed and for life lots of people. He is in jail, of course, and he's being treated in a somewhat decent way. He occasionally complains that he doesn't get access to his favorite computer games and so on. Of course, you know, I wouldn't lose sleep if he was. No, I'm not going to say it. Actually, I'm not going to say it. What I'm going to say is that our treatment of him is about Norway as a society. It's not about him. It's not about him. So the death penalty, I'm so against that because it's just, and also people, you know, we know that innocent people have been killed by the death penalty. Okay. Ghost 40, you didn't really get what I said, did you? Maybe there's a delay here in the chat. Okay. Yeah, Audrey says two wrongs don't make a right. Having morals should never push anyone dead. And also, you know, these people, they will, you know, be all about God and Christianity and all of that. And then, you know, it's not a Christian thing to the death penalty is very un-Christian, I would argue. But anyway, yes. So I don't know. It's lots of things are happening, and right now, and I believe that we are in a there's a Norwegian term for it, like a shift, cultural and societal shift. Um, and I, you know, yeah, Uval says put him to rot in jail, whatever. Again, you know, I'm not so sure that it was him. I'm not so sure. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I'm like, I'm not so sure. All I've seen is stuff in media, and I don't trust that. Two reasons: because people have always been lying. Governments do lie. We know that they do lie, and you also have the AI stuff. So I don't know what's real, what's not. I don't know. Ash, who says, what would the Vikings do to a murderer or a pedophile? Well, interesting question. Um, um, I think that by definition, yeah, I'm not going to. I'll try to keep it short, right? They back then they would be considered adults at a much younger age. So a very young woman, like a girl that was 14, would probably, in many cases, be already, well, at that age, she would, in many cases, be married. Not in all cases, but that would not have been, at least not have been seen as a, as a crime. Far from it. But of course, you know, we do know that, and I have to be careful with these words, but having sexual intercourse with someone without their consent, you know what I'm talking about, was a crime, and yeah, that it was death penalty basically, you know, but it was, you didn't have a police, so you would have people being sentenced to be outlaws, and that meant that anyone could kill them, and very often they then did, because you had revenge was a very important concept back then. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot more that could be said about it. It was different for slaves, but yeah, it's a big topic, I guess. Dusty says people didn't live very long either, so it makes sense. Actually, people did live much longer than no, married at 14, probably passed away by 30. That's actually not true. They lived much longer than that, but the statistics are skewed because you had a lot of infant mortality, sadly. Thunder Norse is pointing out something important here. We know from the sagas that some of these kings, they reached a very old age. Harald Hård, no, not no, Harald Finehair. You're referring to him. He reached 90. I don't know if 90 is correct, but at least he lived into his 80s. So Charlie Kirk and Israel, it's interesting, isn't it? During his last week, he turned against Israel. So yeah, the more you know. So was Harold. Why do I want to say Horod? Harald. No, not him. These guys, they use the same names very often, but yeah. Harold Finehair. Yeah. He is considered the first king of Norway, but Norway, in that sense, it wasn't Norway as defined by modern borders. It was a smaller area. Yuval, I do recommend that you go back and you look at some of the things that Charlie Kirk said during his last week concerning Israel. I think it's interesting. I wouldn't say that Yuval has a lot to learn. Oh, okay. Yes, it did. So, well, you'll have to just make your own conclusions there. It's that simple. So I'm not criticizing you, or I don't mean to be mean or disrespectful. I'm just saying, make your own conclusions there. There's nothing. I'm not being ironic or anything like that. I say what I mean here. Okay. So. Yes. Okay. Well, I think that we are moving into a time of unrest now, and how we conduct ourselves in this time will be important. And it might be tempting to just be very emotional and angry and all of that, and just react. But I think that we need to apply some stoicism here and try to think and be sensible. It's easy to say, not so easy to do always. I will say about the whole raise the colors and the UK movement towards national pride. It could go in the wrong direction, because if it could become about race and skin color. And if it does, it will not end well. How should I put this? I do not think that the term white, so often used by the left, by the way, is a good term to use. I do not see myself as white. I see myself as a Norse. When I look to the West, the British Islands, the English to me are mainly Anglo-Saxons. Well, but it's. I do know the history of England. Then you had the Normans, and then you had. I do know that, but it's like. Do not make it about race. That will not end well. I would hate to see people being beaten up in the streets just because they have a different skin color than what is still the majority. I would hate to see that. I have a lot of faith in the population in the UK. So I think that will happen? No, actually I don't. I don't. BQ set E. What if we are not making it about race, but it actually is about race? I don't think it is about race. I don't think it's about race at all. I think it's about culture. And I think it's about religion too. I think it's about, I think Islam must take some of the blame here. But culture is created by race. No, it's not. It actually isn't. And it's very easy to disprove that if you look at world history. Culture is actually created not by race, but by well, culture is what you get as a result of what outside forces does to your community, basically, up through the ages. Climate, immigration will affect your culture. The UK is a very good example of that. My ancestors, they went west, they settled on the British Islands, and they influenced the culture there tremendously. They changed the culture, and it had a lasting effect. The Normans then moved in 1066. Enormous financial and cultural changes because of that. So, but anyway, yeah, okay. Of course, culture is created by race. Yeah, you may believe that, but I don't think anyone who studies and lives with the studying of history will say that. Yeah, I know that Islam is not a race, it's a religion. Yeah, but okay. You know, you may do that. You may believe that culture is created by race. You have to define race, by the way, which is quite tricky to do. But you know, that's a discussion. It's like arguing with flat earthers, honestly. So anyway, yeah. No, I think the way to win this, the way to win and take back power in the UK is, it can only be done if it's done without violence and by people who act in a civilized and proper way. It cannot be done if people start fighting in the streets, rioting, destroying things. If that happens, that's the only thing the government in the UK needs to demonize that whole movement and to put people in prison. They will do that, and then they will win. So okay. Yeah, there is nothing the internet loves more than discussions about race, is it? I think it's a silly I think it's a silly thing to discuss, basically, a silly topic. Synth 100 says, So you are hippie Viking that believes in peace. Yeah, okay. Sometimes you really don't know if these people are drunk or if they just can't think. Yuval says, I hate to say it, but it's going to get violent. Yeah, if it does, you've lost. So, yeah, let's see here. Yeah, Polly says it's not an ideal subject. No, it's not. That's why I don't like talking about it or discussing it, because it, yeah. Violence is never the answer in a civilized world. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And you know, I'm against war, and that seems to be a very controversial opinion to have these days. It's crazy how did we get here? So let's see here. Just going to kick some people out here. Okay. Okay. Sometimes you must battle. Yeah. I know. It's just when I'm saying that I'm against war, I'm not saying I'm against defending myself, defending people I care for. I'm saying I'm against war. Now, what is war? War is some rich people sitting there in their ivory towers deciding that the peasants, and mainly young people, must go to some place and kill each other. That's war. And I'm against that. If we think about the wars going on now, are they fighting their enemy? Are they? Are they really? I don't think so. Who are they fighting? In Ukraine, who are they fighting? Their enemy? No. No. You have some people there killing some other people, and none of them, well, maybe some, but most of them would not want to. They would rather be at home. They're forced to go there. Russia forces people to go there. Ukraine forces people to go there. And then they are killing people that, they don't know the people that they're killing. I hope you get this. I hope you get this, because what people here have been writing is that, oh, war will, defend yourself and all that. You have to let's see, just kicking someone out here. Sometimes it's tempting to keep these comments because it really exposes the insanity out there. But anyway, Um, yeah, so this is the thing, you know, people who have never been to a war. Now I have never been to a war. Luckily, I've never been to a war. I don't want to go to a war. I don't want to fight in a war. And I'm not going to sit here and promote war or say that that's the reality of life and we have to fight for what's right and all of that. No, I'm not going to say that, because that's not what war is. The politicians want you to believe that, but in reality, war is people who've never met each other, who don't know each other. They would rather not be there, and they are forced to kill other people. It's insanity. Yuval says, sometimes you have no choice if you're attacked. Well, usually you have a choice, actually. And you go somewhere else. That's called being a refugee. So, Yuval says, Israel have no choice. They certainly have a choice. Listen, they absolutely have a choice. But they chose to attack basically everyone. And they can because they're funded by the US. Oh, let's see if they shut down the live stream again. So let's see. Jody, hi there. Yeah, there's one thing I hate a lot. It's like internet tough guys. I really hate that. Hippie Viking. Oh, FDDFEDF. You're so funny. Did you come up with that yourself? Well done. Well done. So, yeah, I'm on Rumble too. You know, I've been on Rumble for years. It's a horrible platform. In the sense that you know, they pay. Have I made $50 in for 4 years or something like that, you know, on Rumble, so it's not sustainable. Yeah, Trond Arnfinn, he says, if people want to have a big mouth, at least do it with your real name. Yeah, exactly. But they won't do that because we all know they're cowards. We all know they're cowards. Yeah. And we can talk a little about the Vikings and violence. Did you know? This is so easy. Did you know that the Vikings, the Norse warriors from Scandinavia, basically, did you know that they preferred not to fight? Did you know that? They laid siege to Paris and had a reputation. It was their reputation most of all that made them so successful in their campaigns. So, for instance, when the Danish army under Svein Forkbeard, well, actually, Torkel the Tall, he was basically the commander of the army. Now, but anyway, they spent the winter in the UK because they usually went over there, and they raided and all of that, and they went back home and spent the winter at home. But now they just stayed there. Did you know that the king Ethelred II, Ethelred the Unready, he actually commanded the peasants and landowners to, I shouldn't laugh because it must have been horrible, but he commanded them to provide the Danish army with supplies during the winter. His enemy. And he did that because, well, probably because he knew that if they didn't get any supplies, they would start raiding. So it's like, yeah. And it was not uncommon for the Norse to just, use their reputation so that they would avoid fighting. Why they were not stupid. Why would they fight if they didn't have to? Someone I have to remove here. I didn't see that one. Yeah, the Norse reached North America before the Spanish. They got there in the year 1000, easy to remember, and they did have a colony. Well, not a colony, but a settlement, or several settlements. I can't see that user. But anyway. Okay. So let's see. Laura is asking again. We're talking about Viking history, which is fine. Laura is asking: were most Viking men married, and did they have mistresses as well? Well, we don't know the life and history of every single human being back then, but what we can assume from the sagas and archaeological finds and stuff like that is that men with some property, not necessarily rich men, but if you had some wealth, you would probably be married, and it was not frowned upon to have a mistress or two, back then. And if they had a child out of, now I will say wedlock and then clarify, out of wedlock, that was not seen as dishonorable in any way. But now, before Christianity, and after as well, they were not married in that sense, like in church. Well, I don't actually know when they started to use marriage in a church context. I actually don't know when people generally did that, but they had the ritual of a similar ritual, which is pre-Christian ritual, the hand binding. I think you have the same in the Gaelic culture as well, which is a piece of cloth that are kind of loosely wrapped around the hands of the bride and the groom, So, so stave churches, actually, Thunder Norse, are not at all similar to Viking Age buildings. Oh, MacDoobie here. That's how me and my wife was married. That's wonderful. Wow. Yeah, somewhere in the rock it says, "Eye for an eye, and the whole world will go blind." Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say something going a little bit back to the that horrible murder of this guy, Charlie Kirk. The Christian way to deal with that, the Christian way to deal with the murder, not the murder, but the murderer. In my opinion, I'm not a Christian, so maybe you disagree, you probably do. But the Christian way to deal with it would be forgiveness. Yeah, I said it. Now, I'm not saying that that person should not be in prison. That's not what I'm saying. But it's very un-Christian to say we're going to implement the death penalty and so on. That's just revenge. But you know, Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, forgiveness, you know. But anyway, the more you know. But yeah, I have to add that I do believe that people like that, if that was the murderer, they need to be kept away from the public because they're dangerous. They could harm other people too. So that's a very important aspect of this. And that is very often the case with these people, you know, violent people, drug dealers, people doing horrible stuff to other people. You know, they have to be kept away from the public. Kingdoms and Kobolds, do you believe that an assassin deserves forgiveness? I don't believe so. I'm just saying that seems to be the Christian way to deal with it, but I'm not a Christian. So yeah. No, if he repents, no, actually, it doesn't say that in the Bible. You can be forgiven if you repent. It doesn't say that. It's unconditional. What would be the pagan response? Well, Norse pagan response would be revenge. So that's easy to answer. That would be revenge. I don't know. I can't answer for other so-called pagan belief systems. You need to understand that Norse so-called paganism, revenge is an extremely important aspect. And it was detrimental to some societies during that time back then. And Iceland, the blood feuds, the Icelandic blood feuds, actually those happened after Christianity was implemented in the 1200s, but it was decimating entire families. So yeah, Kit is asking, what would be the modern day heathen's punishment in your opinion? I, you know, it's a difficult one because I've said before, I'm theoretically an anarchist. I do not believe that the state should have so much power. But then again, you have, well, it's just a difficult discussion, I I will say that I don't think that the state should act out of the state should practice revenge. I do not think that. That leads nowhere. Well, it does lead somewhere, but not to a good place. Yeah. And again, when I say I'm a theoretical anarchist, what I mean by that is that I realize that anarchism would never work. It wouldn't work because you need rules so that, and the example I usually use is that you need rules that make it illegal to drive a car when you're intoxicated, for instance, because there are so many idiots out there. So you need some rules. You need actually even people need to pay some taxes so that the state, we need a state so that the state can help those who are sick and you can't pay for their health care if they get sick and so on. Oh, Dawn, you and your husband watched you from beginning. Oh, thank you. That's kind of you. Yeah, so yeah, we need some laws and there must be consequences. But, it's like my opinion is that you should only put people in prison to prevent them from harming others. It shouldn't be seen as neither a place for what's the word, when you try to change someone so that they become better human beings. Shouldn't be a place for that, because I don't think a prison is a good suitable place for that, and it should not be for revenge. That's my opinion. But then again, if someone kills another human being, then it's this is a difficult topic, I guess. But if there's a murder, you really have to look at the circumstances. Is it rehabilitation? Yes. Thank you. But because it's very different from this. If it was this person they have arrested who killed Charlie Kirk, if it was him, then obviously he's a dangerous person. He shouldn't be out in the public. Could he ever be out in the public again? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. But if you have someone who a crime of passion, like in a I don't know. I can't think of any examples here, but like two men fighting over a girl, right? A woman, right? Crime of passion, and there's a fist fight, and one guy happens to kill the other guy. That's different, right? You get what I'm saying here? Because that person wouldn't necessarily be, well, he's a killer by definition then, but he wouldn't be there is maybe no reason to think that he would be killing other people too. I don't know. Maybe not the best example, but you get what I'm trying to say here. Yeah. Tron is saying, oh, my new novel next month. Yeah, next month here in Norway. Yeah, that was not a good example. It's early. I can't think of better examples right now. And also, I want my omelette for breakfast. I hope they have that at this hotel. Yeah. Beast system includes Palantir, Starlink, Ripple, digital slavery, surveillance, and governance. Yeah, well, yeah, I think we won't get into that now, but obviously that's a big topic. Yeah. Jody says, I'm in a hotel. Yeah, I'm in a hotel. I don't think that's so cool. I don't like it so much. So, no, I'm not going to talk about the book right now because, yeah, no. Happy travels. Well, actually, I hate it. I don't like it. I don't like traveling like this. I don't like it. Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting. Some of these people you see in the chat, they pop up there, and you have to wonder what's going on in their lives. But anyway, yeah, so traveling like this, it's okay. Yeah, traveling like this is it's a bit boring because like I'm on stage like 15 minutes, something like that, in this city last night, and then another city today, and then Oslo finally, and then I get to go home tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to. And yeah, but I am grateful that my Norwegian publisher wants me to do this, and yeah, I get to talk about my novel and all of that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's frustrating to talk to the other authors here because no, when I talk to the other authors, and two of them, how many are we? 6? We're the chosen ones. And two of them have had their books published in English. You know, that's my main goal. Like, that's what I want to happen. But for them, it's not been a success in English. But their books are very different, and they don't have the social, there's the reach on social media that I have. So I don't know. I know that when my books are published into English, which they will be, but I need that deal, you know, with a good publisher, the right publisher. When that happens, it's going to take off like crazy. Yeah. Richie says most English know nothing of English history. It's embarrassing. Yeah, well, that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point, because it's like, yeah, I didn't think about that, but what if, yeah, well, if you don't know your culture and your history, then it's, first of all, what happens is that it's easy to believe that it's all about race. That's one thing. The other thing is easy to believe in the lies that the government is feeding you. Like, for instance, England is a country of immigrants. Like, well, yeah, all countries are. You could say that about all countries. But if your family has lived in the country for a millennium, are you really an immigrant? You know, it's such an ancient civilization, going back, you know, before the Celts even. But again, you know, how many British people know about that? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, no, I'm a novelist. That's my job. That's my work. If you don't know about that, then what are your identity? Like your football team, or hating Indian immigrants? You know, yeah, you can go to my website, which is linked to in the video description, and you will find a link there to a petition that someone made about getting my books translated into English. Yeah. So, yeah. I heard there was this discussion on TV last night about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. No, not that one, about the protest in London, and you had this professor from some university here who did all the talking points from the left, you know. And why do they do that? I think they do that because they want to appear intellectual. It's they show off, and they want to come across as more intelligent than other people. But it's very dishonest, obviously. It's just very dishonest. And And he said that England has always been a melting pot of cultures. Yeah, well, why? Yeah, so in other words, so what's happening now with immigration is just fine. And that's such a stupid thing to say, because yeah, a melting pot of cultures. Okay. Which cultures? I mean, I want to go back to William the Conqueror, and when he basically had just took everything. He stole everything, all the property from the people in the country, and he said, well, now I'll just give this to my friends now, my friends and family. We own everything now. And my Norman culture will be the main culture in England. So that was a cultural shift, right? But it was not it wasn't as different. It was a less of a cultural shift than what you're seeing now, I would argue. And going up through history, you haven't really seen anything like what's happening now in the UK before. You haven't really seen that before. So when they try to compare it to other incidents in English history, it's just silly, because this is what's unprecedented. And it needs to stop. It's very simple, and they even, they said so as well, that the argument on TV, mainstream TV, the argument is that the island is full. And they interviewed a journalist from a document.no. They are, many people would say they are far right. They're not far right, but they are, well, critical to the establishment. So they did that, it's like, that's a good journalist there, but in that program, the debate, the button, he's a good journalist, I believe. But anyway, so yeah, I'm a bit all over the place now, but it's not, what's happening in the UK now is not like the Norman invasion. It's not like the Danelaw. It's not like anything that has happened in the UK before. And one major difference is, of course, that two major differences is, of course, that you have people from cultures that are so different that you can't compare it to anything that has happened before. And also, and even more important, the island is full. Is it like 70 million people in the UK now? It's crazy. Shouldn't even be half that. Should be like Norway. Should be in the UK. I think should have been like 5 million. Oh yeah, Laura, I heard Robert Redford passing away. Yes, I heard. Well, he was very old, but it's always sad, of course. He was a wonderful actor, and I've seen several of his movies. Wonderful, wonderful movies. So yeah, That's always sad, But, I assume he had a full life. So, um, yeah. 18 million in the Netherlands. What? Is that even possible? It's a tiny country. 18 million? I will say it again. So, if you cannot open the door, go out into your garden, and urinate without your neighbors seeing you, you're too close to your neighbors. Did I get that right? If you go out and urinate in your garden and your neighbors see you, you live too close to your neighbors. That's my opinion. Why am I saying people are asking here? I guess you're joining now. And why are you saying arrest Hasan Piker and Destiny? I'm saying it, and many other people are saying it too. The reason is very simple. They have been, well, they are obviously very much on the left politically, and they have been very descriptive in how they want people on the right to be killed, and in which way. And they've done it several times to millions of followers. And I don't know about, as I said, I don't know about the law in the USA. I believe they're both in the USA. But in Norway, it's not, in Norway, it is illegal to say that someone should kill someone. That's illegal. You can say whatever you like. You can say the trans men are not men. No, trans women. I always get it wrong. Trans women are men. Trans women. You can say that. You can say that your political opponents are wrong and disgusting and horrible people, and you can say whatever you like. Actually, there's a law you can't criticize the king, but that's a dead law. It's not functional. So I can say that, as I've said many times, that I think that the royal family is disgusting and we should not have a monarchy. You can say all of that, but you can't say, and I'm not going to say it because I might be quoted on that, but as I'm not going to say it as an example even, but you can't, you can't call for violence against a person or a group. And there is a reason for that, because some people out there might just do that. So you can't encourage people to go out and take a life. That, but it should be obvious, if you're a decent human being, you wouldn't do it. You don't do that, but these people have been doing that. And I've never watched Destiny. I've never watched Hasan Piker, but I've seen some clips now. And it's really, really aggressive and very descriptive concerning what they want people to do to certain politicians, and they've been naming them. Yeah. Ash says Trump is way more aggressive. No. I agree that Trump is saying things that are too aggressive, but he's not been saying things like that. And for obvious reasons, I'm not even going to quote those people. And so you've seen clips, so you've been tricked. No, listen, no. I've been doing this for a while now, and I know what is real and what is not real. It's not been taken out of context either. So Michael says you are not in our news cycle and you do not see all that he's doing. I can guarantee you that Norwegian leftist journalists will report on everything bad that Trump is doing. I can be completely, I can assure you, if everything bad and horrible that he's saying, or we get to know that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm more worried about not getting to know the good things that the Trump administration is doing, because they are doing some good things. And I saw a list, during his last presidency, about some protection of the wildlife or nature reserves and stuff like that, which they had actually been doing and implemented. I'm not saying that they are all for protection of nature. I think they are not. I think the Democrats would have done a better job on that, but it's like it's not all black and white, So I saw a list, and it's like, yeah, this is great. Why didn't journalists report on that? Yeah. Michael says, you are so far out of this, brother, I promise. Okay. Yeah. I hope so. I hope I am. But I don't think that I am. I think, yeah. I don't know. Michael, also, I need to remind you that you need to be respectful here. At the moment, you are not. So try to come across as a little bit more, a little bit less of what you're doing now. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, brother. They always say that. Okay. Let's see here. It's a balancing act sometimes. It feels like a balancing act when you when people around you get all crazy. Let's see here. Yeah, I'll just show you this. Look at this. So it's interesting. So here's someone writing, take another deep heaving breath, fatty. So you you see these comments sometimes, and I see more comments than are shown in the chat, and then you start wondering about the mental health of these people. So it's like we're just using you now as an example, cuckoo nut queens. You don't know much, do you? And then you start wondering because what's going on, what's going on. And then I think that it's a good example, and that this is the only reason why we're using you here, is that when you have the internet, it becomes so easy for people to be disrespectful and disgusting, basically. That's what they're doing, and you wouldn't dare to say that to my face. I guarantee you wouldn't. And if you did, I would verbally make a permanent scar in your soul. You would never recover. So it's like they're hidden behind their smartphone, and they can do that. So this is part of the problem, and I think I might be wrong on this one, but Hasan Piker and Destiny and people like that, they are basically doing the same. I guess they're doing these live streams and stuff all of the time, and it becomes like they go into their little bubble and they forget that they're actually talking to sometimes millions of people. They are in that bubble, and it's the same as this nameless person here who's just being a complete idiot. They feel safe doing that. So on one hand, I would say we should not have internet anonymity. But hold on, hear me out here. Because people get to do that. But then also I realized that with the censorship, and in some countries like the UK, people are being put in prison, if they say something that goes against the current narrative. I do understand that I do understand that we need, some people need, they feel they need anonymity. Yeah, this is funny. Thank you, Cuckoo Nut Queens. I like you. You're saying you're the one glazing Donald Trump, and you're concerned about my mental health. Yes, I am. He said he loves the poorly educated, and he was talking about you. Yeah, because I'm so poorly educated, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm so poorly educated. Yeah. Yeah, we will not waste more time on this individual. So it's gone. It's gone. But it was just a good example of this, how people feel safe when they're on the internet, and they act accordingly. And in a way, it's a very honest. Maybe that's how they honestly are. Maybe that's how they honestly are. Yeah, I'm sorry I had to keep that person here, but it was just a very good opportunity to, because it was a um, in live, no, yeah, in real life, no, what do you call it? Yeah, it was a good example of how people become sometimes. No, Alex, I'm not taking. No, I don't. I don't care. Yeah, I know they like attention. And normally we do not give them attention, but this was just, as I said, such a good, yeah, in real life example of troll, but also sharp canines. Not only a troll, but someone who feels like they can say whatever they like because they're on the internet. And the extreme version of that is when you have people like Hasan Piker and Destiny sitting there talking about how they want certain named people. They name them. They use their names, and they say that they want they want them they want a sharp object to be used on them. They want to see their guts on the street and so on. That's it is really horrible. So yeah. Mike is asking, would you approve of a democratic system on YouTube where users could vote yes or no regarding technical changes to the platform before they are implemented? I don't know. No, I would say no, because no, I don't think that's a good idea. Sorry. Yeah, Bobby is asking, what do you think of Charlie Kirk? Well, I do not like to talk negatively about the dead. What I've said is that I do not, well, the obvious part first, this was a tragedy. That he was killed was a horrible thing. He did not deserve that. And it honestly makes me very sad. It does. Also, I will say that I do not believe that he was an advocate for free speech, because his opinions would have resulted in no free speech for people like myself in the future. No, I don't. Well, I don't know all the stuff he said, but what I've heard him saying, I do not agree with that. But he was not someone I've like. For a Norwegian, most Norwegians, they did not know who he was. So yeah, it's okay to ask, I guess. That's okay. But it's like, it's from a Norwegian perspective, it's not like he's not an important person, but we now see that he was an important person ideologically in the USA. And it's a little bit what I've seen him saying, I have disagreed with, but that might be because those clips were aimed at to create, you know, reactions on the internet, I guess. You know, so why would Charlie want to have control? Well, again, why would Charlie Kirk's opinions have led to a less freedom of speech? Well, because basically, from what I've heard him saying, he would have been in favor of a theocracy in the USA. Now, so if I was in the USA as a Norse heathen, I would have been in kind of trouble, you know. We all know how this goes. Takes a little while, and suddenly you can't criticize the churches, and then more and more rules that limit what you can say and can't say are implemented, and so on. Vindlago says he was not a theocrat. Well, that's open for discussion, I guess, but I don't think this is the right time to discuss it. So but we have talked about that several times already during this live stream, and it's getting close to breakfast time here at the hotel. Yeah, you know, it's like sometimes I wonder why do people care what I think? It's much more important what you think, and that everyone has an ongoing process of thinking, ongoing process of trying to, we need to educate ourselves like continuously, and it's like, I'm just sharing my opinion here, and I might be wrong on some things, you know, should be obvious. So all we can do is to try to educate ourselves and be informed to some extent, at least. Laura is asking, was there anyone at dinner last night trying to promote veganism? Yeah, because last week I was doing the first part of this tour, and yeah, there's a woman, one of the other authors, she has a, what you call a cookbook. Yeah, how to eat more vegetables. And I eat mostly red meat. So yeah, no, she hasn't been pestering me with her carrots and lettuce yet. She did point at me at the airplane. I ate a biscuit because I was hungry, and she said carbs, because she thinks that I don't eat any carbs because I eat red meat. So the carnivore thing. I'm not fully carnivore. I'm eating carbs to keep my body weight up. If I wanted my body weight to go down, I would eat much less carbs or no carbs. Yeah. No, she thought that was funny that I ate a biscuit. But anyway, no, but I did not go out for dinner with the other people because it was too late. So I brought, what is it? I brought 3 pounds of steak with me. Actually, I'm looking at some of it here now. And it should probably, not go bad until tomorrow maybe. So I'll have to finish that today on the train. Yeah. Yeah, I have potatoes too, so it's steak and potatoes. Yeah. Oh, MacDoobie here says, "Are you so yeah? If you're diabetic, absolutely, you know, carnivore, keto, that's good for you." Canadian Spiderman says you can eat cooked meat a week later. I do it all the time. Yeah, I oh, this is a ground beef. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. So that's what I will be doing on the train. And it's now I'm not so okay. I'll just say this. You know, I like as a powerlifter. You know, I spend a lot of what I no I don't. I was going to say I spend a lot of time with other powerlifters. I don't because I don't spend a lot of time with other people at all. But my point here is that now that I have to spend time with normal people, they are so tiny. They're so tiny. So it's like yeah. So I oh yeah. I'm thinking to myself that's what normal people look like. So yeah, it's just something I notice from time to time, and yeah. Um, yeah, you shouldn't boil your bacon, John. Why would you do that? Yeah. Yeah, the beef eater. I said beef eaters. I don't know why. When I was a child, we had in school, we had the books about London and England. Maybe that's where my fascination started. But the beef eaters, and I thought, and those are the gods at Tower of London, you know, and I thought, why the bees? Are they keeping bees? Have you seen them? They have these hats and stuff. If you go to London, you can see them there at the Tower of London, and it's like, oh, why? I was wondering about that, and I didn't think about it much for many years, and then I went to London, and I learned that they were fed beef because, can you guess why? Back in the old days, they were fed beef. That was their diet. Didn't you know why? Now I don't know if this is true, but I think the guide or someone there when I went to London back then, the guide told me it yeah makes you strong. No, actually, back in I don't know. when, but a long time ago, it was believed that eating beef made your night eyesight better. So that's why they because they were gods, you know, and it would be great if they had better eyesight during the dark hours. So that's why they got beef. They were fed beef. So they were called the beef eaters, not the bee feeders. So it's like no bees, just beef. Yeah, the more you know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's a bit of history there. So anyway, um, yeah, kind of bourbon called beef eaters. Yeah, I'm sure there is, or gin. Yeah, beef eaters gin. Yeah, another thing about bit of history here. Did you know that this must have been, my guess is the 1800s. I'm not sure. It was seen, gin was seen as dangerous, like the drug that would just destroy lives. So there is a painting or an illustration where you have one street, it's Gin Lane, and then you have the Bear, what's it called? Bear Street, Gin Lane and Bear Street. And in Gin Lane, it's like all horrible. It's horrible. Like people are just drunk in the street. I think there's like a mother just dropping her little child, and Gin Alley. Okay, yeah. This is just something that popped into my memory here. And then in Bear Street, everyone is like fat and happy. so, so beer was seen as much better. And when you think about it, of course, if you had to choose, then of course beer is probably much healthier than gin. And well, but I would say water is even better. Yeah. So, and I don't doubt that gin and these strong liquors were destroying lives. Well, they are today. So, you know, obviously, yeah. If alcohol was introduced now, it would have been banned. It would not have been legal. I think all these substances that intoxicate the mind should be illegal. That's my opinion on that. Yeah. But anyway, I'm seeing now that yeah, should be breakfast in 15 minutes. So yeah, I am looking forward to that. And yeah, thank you for joining me, keeping me company here for a couple of hours. That was nice. Yeah, I fell asleep very early last night because I get bored, you know. I just get bored and I fall asleep, and then I wake up very early. So that's how it is. Okay, Have a wonderful day or evening. We will talk soon.